Good morning to all of you. Dear Mr. Abraham Stefanos, respected Director Debashis Chatterjee, Deans, faculty, students, and parents. I really feel happy to be here. In fact, every time I go to any campus, I feel like getting back to college, back to at least to academics, some sort of. In fact, I remember last time I had come here, we had a long discussion with the director on ways of wriggling back into academics. Yep, thank you. Here, you guys are all so lucky to be here. Honestly, I have to tell that. Uh, what's the motto of IIM Kozhikode? Somebody? Yeah. Pardon? I didn't get you. Did I get? IIM Kozhikode, the motto. Hmm? Yeah. Who said that? Yeah, good. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Okay, what does that mean? Yeah. Now, there is another institution, another entity that shares the same motto. Any guess? Rather, it's not an institution, it's something else. It's got something to do with meme. Yeah, the Indian Administrative Service, actually. It's the same motto that we also have. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. We focus on the karma, we try to do it to the best of our abilities. As the director was saying, we are not bothered about what others do, neither are we bothered about where we stand. We just focus on our karma. We are all taught in the Bhagavad Gita, they say that you are entitled not to the fruits but to the karma. Often we see it in a transactional basis, as if you do and you don't wait for the wages. It's not that exactly, okay? You focus on the job and you don't have an entitlement to the fruit. That is entirely different. The concept is completely different. It's like taking have you taken a lottery ticket? Anyone? Lottery? Nay, you guys don't like lotteries? Okay. When you take a lottery, what's the first prize? It could be a couple of crores. And when you don't get the jackpot, do you feel upset? Why? Why? You have lost a couple of crores, yeah? You should be really upset. Because when you take the ticket, you really do anticipate that you will win it, but you are not upset. Why? Because you know that you are not entitled to that. You don't feel that entitlement. But you are doing your job, which is taking the ticket. There ends your karma, and then you are just waiting for the result. And if you don't get it, fine, you go and do it again. Something similar. I'm not saying that it's exactly the same. Anyway, if you see your life, if you put in your effort accordingly, I think there is a great prospect of you becoming the best. Now, what is best? I remember when I was doing my handling the initial World Bank project of Jalanidhi. It's in the water sector. I had a consultant, a World Bank consultant from Maharashtra, very senior, 80 plus. I was so obsessed with preparing the document so perfectly, the project document based on which the bank is going to do the funding. When you're fresh into the service, you're so into. I was repeatedly redrafting, making it better and better. Finally, this consultant, he told me, Prashant, you're not going to get a UNESCO prize for the best DPR. You're not going to get anything of that sort. And you should remember, best is the enemy of good. Best is the enemy of good. That struck me like anything. I was striving for this best document, and in that process, I'm losing out submitting the good document. There is a timeline for everything. I have to make a call. I should know when it is good enough, and I should go ahead because the things have to move on. Things have to happen. Now, this is a judgment which you have to have. If you try to make it the best, you're not going to reach anywhere. But if you look for the good enough thing, you will be able to make progress. Well, uh, earlier, one of the professors had rightly mentioned about um, the appropriateness or the contextuality of things, starting off from even your attire. Um, that's so beautiful. Actually, that's so important. Sometimes we lose focus of that. We don't appreciate what is contextual, what is right contextually. You can be humble, you can be straightforward. You don't need to be you don't need to put on that air of superiority to everyone, but there are times when you have to do that also. That there again, you need to know the distinction. For instance, I remember in the collectorate here, if you guys go to the collectorate Kozhikode, you'll find the chamber of the collector is slightly different from the other chambers where you would have seen in movies mein dekhe honge, but this is slightly different. You'll find that right behind the collector there is a mural painting that goes the entire wall, and on that mural you'll find characteristics of Kozhikode from northern part to the southern part depicted in mural painting that is so very typical of Kerala temple painting styles. And in the middle, you'll have the Samudri, the king of Kozhikode, in his court, sitting there. And you have a function called Revati Patattanam, which is a traditional thing that used to happen where the Sanskrit scholars would come, congregate, and they would recite, and the king would be enjoying that and all that stuff. Now, if you further observe, you'll find that there is a shadow curtain between that wall and the collector. The collector sits slightly ahead. There is a shadow curtain in between. Matlab, there's no lighting. Then there is spotlight on the collector, okay, from both sides. Have you seen, if there are Malayalis, you will appreciate movies by Shaji Kailas, the king, commissioner, and all that stuff, in which these IAS, IPS officers are shown in, so much of superlatives. It's like it's कुछ ज़्यादा है, okay. So there was an associate director and a cameraman who had been working with Shaji Kailas, who happened to be my friends. So they came over to meet me in the collectorate, and they were just waiting by the side while I was finishing the public. After that, they met me and they told, yeah, when Shaji Kailas sir shoots the movies, they always felt this is slightly exaggerated. कुछ ज़्यादा है, इतना नहीं, don't overdo it. But after seeing this chamber, we are feeling that that's quite normal. This is too much, really too much. But why? There was a reason why I redid the chamber like this. There was even a small concealed mic out there because I have a very soft voice. A slightly concealed mic with hidden speakers in the corners. So that if I'm angry, I just have to, growl a bit and immediately the whole chamber will light up. These are small tricks of the trade which you have to do. It's not that I want to, show off the power of the collector or anything like that. No, but as a district magistrate, when you call people for negotiations, for instance, there'll be warring factions who are, called before you for negotiation, and I sit there and meekly and say, sir, please listen to me, sir. It doesn't work that way. They should feel that you are sitting in a seat of authority and then you command. That is why the judges sit on a podium. Otherwise, they could have sat on a bench. These are simple psychological stuff which you need to imbibe here in this campus while interacting with your colleagues, your other students, your faculty. Ultimately, everything is psychological. I think that is the way to put it. There are certain places where you have to apply certain tricks and don't feel shy about it because it's not for yourself. Certain things, when you try these tricks, it's for the betterment of your organization to achieve the goal in the right sense. But yes, you need to have compassion. Without compassion, you'll become rudderless and you'll completely lose focus. What and why you are doing these things. The director was mentioning somebody found insect in food. I think so long as you are not billed extra for that insect, You should not make it a fuss, If you have billed extra for that insect, definitely, I mean, that's very unfair because you didn't order for it. You shouldn't do that. Otherwise, these things happen. And have you thought of it? When someone is working as a waiter, as a janitor, something like that, why is he or she there? If he or she was that smart, equally as smart as you, would he or she be working there? So you should appreciate that there are certain constraints. That is why he or she is working there. This compassion is basically an empathy, an element of empathy that connects you with the other person. When you feel exactly like the other person, you empathize, and then something strikes inside you. We are all naturally wired. Have you read, if you have read this V.S. Ramachandran about the phantom cells and all that stuff, you would really appreciate this. Because we are all connected at some level. If your friends, not even a friend, a stranger's finger cuts and blood comes out, you just watch it, you'll feel the pain here. At least for a moment, you will feel that pain. And then immediately you tell your body, you tell your mind that, no, that is somebody else, I am somebody else. And then that disconnects. That connection is natural. That's the mirror neurons, as they say, from the frontal cortex. So it's natural. If you just be natural, you will feel things as it is. If you become unnatural, if you try to become contrived, you lose out that naturality. You don't become what you could really become, your real true potential. So when we tried out a lot of things in Kozhikode here, unfortunately, your dear director was not here at that time. Otherwise, we could have had a real blast, I'm sure. It was all based on compassion, on empathy, on sharing your good fortunes. And most of our fortunes are disproportionate. As they say, disproportionate assets. So we are all having disproportionate fortunes. How many in India can actually sit in an AC room? Just think of it. What percentage of a population can actually sit in an AC room? Chodo, just a room with a fan. Now, all of us here in this room definitely come within 1 or 2% of that population in India who can afford, who can at least have access to these kind of things. The entitlement that we feel is very disproportionate. We have to be thankful to the environment, to your parents, to the situation, the luck, sheer luck by which you took birth in some particular household, or you got guidance at the right time from somebody or somebody. These are all things that came just by sheer luck, not entirely by your merit. Often people say, I am a self-made man, I did this, I did that, which is plainly stupid because nobody does that. It doesn't happen like that, unless you are an amoeba or something. You have to take somebody else's help to reach whatever you are. If you realize that, you will empathize, you will have loads of compassion, and don't feel shy about getting emotional. You are in a great place here. You'll find a lot of interesting people around. Keep exploring the city, and get into activities which give you peace of mind. Don't be a robot. Don't be a machine. Because already the world is marching much ahead with research in AI and all that stuff. You don't want more machines here. We are all human beings, and that human element has to be preserved if you have to stand out. See, AI is taking over so many things. Lots of things which are being even taught to you right now could be taken over by AI in a couple of years. The speed at which things are progressing is unimaginable. They say every fifth year the processing power actually doubles. There's a theory like that. So, and we don't really realize that. It's like a lake in which you have one lotus. That lotus becomes 2 lotus in the next day. The subsequent day it becomes 4. It keeps on doubling. It's the progressional thing, geometric progression. And nobody takes notice of that. Nobody really notices that until it is probably, 1/4 or, around that time. Then it's just 2 days. It's over. The whole lake would be covered with lotus plants. This is how AI is progressing. This is how human-machine interface is progressing. This is how the processing power, the chip which used to, you needed a whole auditorium to fill in one proper supercomputer. Now you have things coming smaller, smaller. Even such a small chip will hold as much information and processing power as you could never imagine. So most things will go the AI way. What will be left with us? It is only that human element. It is only that human part, which is creativity, originality, compassion, empathy. These are the skills. These will become skills. Because mere accounting and decision making without empathy, any machine can do. What will stand out is the human element. So try to safeguard that. Don't lose that thing. And you'll be going through a lot of academic pressures as well. There'll be lots of experiences, good and bad. You'll be going through anxiety. Anxiety is basically what you're worried about your future. That is basically anxiety, or you worry about the past and get into depression. Now, as ascetics say, live in the present, think of the present, live the moment. This is just one life. You're all youngsters. This is just one life. Every moment you are losing out. Okay, every time your time is ticking and you're losing. Live the moment to the fullest possible potential, such that you don't regret. Okay, I should have done that. I should have done this. You are in a great place like Kozhikode. If you are a non-vegetarian, go out and have some great food. Even veg food is okay, but you're losing out a whole lot of things if you're not eating non-veg in Kozhikode. Yesterday, Rahul had come to pick me up, so I asked him, had he been to Paragon? No, he hadn't been to Paragon yet. Neither to Rahmat. There are quite a few outlets where you should definitely go and experience great Kozhikode cuisine. Yeah, so I'll just, without taking further time, just remind you one point. Don't get scared. Don't get worried with anxiety. Don't lose focus of your life by imaginary fears. As the director was saying, you are now surrounded by the social media, even the newspapers, the kind of negativity that they propagate. It really starts affecting you. I have stopped watching 24/7 news channels for the last, I think it's a 12 years. 12 years I'm not watching 24/7 channels. Newspapers, I stopped reading newspapers around 8 or 7 years back. I only read selected news items from the business, international affairs, and the op-ed side, which keeps my mind very clean, I believe. It doesn't put me to any anxiety. Otherwise, information is thrown at you. All the garbage is thrown at you, and you lose focus because you don't need all this information. You only know what is required for you. Unless you go out and choose that, you will be bombarded with unnecessary information and you will be, you lose focus. It's called information overload. That is clearly happening. That is affecting the intellect of people. Let me just ask something, and you had this COVID thing going on. Earlier you had plague, long back, Black Death. What was the percentage of death? It was a pandemic, right? The pandemic, when you look at a pandemic, it's not an endemic, it's a pandemic. When a pandemic is assessed, you look at the percentage of death per population. If it inflicts a country, what percentage of people died? That is how you assess the seriousness. So Black Death or plague, what was the percentage of death? Anybody? Just a guess, numbers, just. What percentage of a population died because of plague? It was 25%. 25%. Not 50, 25% actually, globally. That's the figure, the WHO figures. Let's say that if a country is, it could be 50 in some countries, sure, yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could have been 50. But the global average death rate was 25%. Then you had the influenza. Okay, what was the percentage of death? Anyone? 15. 15 is right. 15. Okay, so what's the percentage for COVID? 2. Yeah, how can that be? I mean, it's the biggest pandemic ever. What's the percentage? It's 0.28. 0.28%. But what was the relative fear factor? People, I can see some are still not accepting the fact it's 0.28. But it is 0.28. You can check up the WHO figures. Even that 2 and all that, that's actually the figures of people who are infected. And when you're assessing pandemic, you look at the population and then try to understand the seriousness. Now, has anyone assessed the number of deaths that have been caused by the restrictions we placed to control COVID? To be honest, it will be more than 0.28. Numbers are yet to come. Why I say this is because this is precisely what happens when you are in fear. This is what happens when you are afraid. This is when happens when you panic. The entire globe panicked thanks to the increased telecommunication facilities, the social media, the media, and clueless leaders all over. So what happened was you just spread the fear, and you got this kind of a response, and you lose logic. There was no logic in most of the responses. I'm sure in a couple of years there will be enough studies to prove that we totally messed it up. Globally, we messed it up. It's nobody to blame. It's the scenario, it's the situation, it's the fear factor, this collective mob of fear that caused this. And we all contribute individually when we succumb to this fear. When we succumb to this means by following this useless, baseless social media or things that come in the media, and you start getting affected. This is how we also contribute to such nonsense. So the response sometimes becomes like you shut down everything at 9. Even the closures, have you thought about it? How does COVID spread? It spreads by contact. So what do? You have to segregate. You have to send people away. They should not interact much. So in basic economics, you must have studied. When the supply reduces, what happens? The rush increases actually. So you shut down the shops and you allow it to be open for a limited time. More people will come at that time. It will actually facilitate spreading. So you actually need to open it 24/7, isn't it? I mean, these are logical questions which don't come to our mind because of fear, panic, and all that. So don't get into that panic thing. Experience everything as just experience. Accept it as experience and think positively, as has been said by the professors here. I'll just wind up by saying that please focus on the compassion part, which the director also very passionately said. Balance passion with compassion. And it was also said that there were lots of quotes being put up here in the campus. I'll give you my favorite quote, which is not here on the campus, which says that your one act of compassion, okay, your one act of compassion can change a person's life completely, and that person is you yourself. And this quote is mine. Okay. Thank you.